Hello, thank you for joining us in the Food for Nutrition 101. This is just an introductory video, just to tell you what this thing is all about. As the title implies, it's about growing food for nutrition. So this is not about gardening, of course, because, we don't eat flowers. And it's not about how you grow your food. There are several techniques and they all have their time and place, and we'll talk about them later on in the future. Just let me name a few. Perhaps recently many things came up and came out in the open and discussed, things like permaculture, syntropic, organic, all of these things, protected agriculture. They're all good techniques. They have their time and place, but I'm not here to talk about them. I'm going to be talking about how do you grow things that are of interest to you for your nutrition. So in order for us to be able to do this, we have to first understand what is it that we need to eat, because what's the point of growing something if you're going to eat it, if you don't know in the first place what is it that your body requires. So we need to have a little bit of a background about human nutrition, and I don't want to dwell deeply into it because that's not the objective here. But it's sort of like budgeting, like you're embarking on a project and you need to know how much does it cost you to get into it before you actually do it. So what do we need? What do we need? What do I need to grow? Depends on what I need to eat. So we have to go back to the basics of human nutrition and remind ourselves that our bodies basically thrive on 7 different classes of food, types, classes, whatever you want to call them. Water, of course, is number 1 because we consume the most of, in terms of class. We need more water than anything else, depending on your age, your lifestyle, the country you live in, because you could be living in a place where you don't perspire a lot, or otherwise the exact opposite. But in general, we need 1.5 to 2.5 liters of water a day, and that's huge. If we compare it to the second thing, which is carbohydrate, we need roughly, again, depending on your sex, age, body weight, etc., but no less than 100 grams of carbohydrates. In fact, they look at 130 grams as the average. So let's say 100 to 150 grams of carbohydrates. Again, I'm not going to split hairs here and say which types of carbohydrates. We're talking general. This third thing is protein, and that's the key thing. I'm going to be talking a lot about protein in that course. Why? Because it's a very essential thing for nutrition, and we need, as adults, again, roughly 60 grams per day. It could be a bit less, a bit more, depending on many different variables. And then after that come fats or lipids or oils, 3 synonyms of the same, that allude to the same meaning. And then, so that's 4 so far: water, carbohydrate, protein, fats. Number 5 is vitamins. Number 6 is minerals. Now, vitamins and minerals, the daily requirements is measured in milligrams. Now, 1 milligram is 1,000th of a gram, so we need these things in very small amounts compared to the others. Fats, I forgot to mention, we need about 20-30 grams a day. So vitamins, much less. And the last group, number 7, is fiber, also referred to as roughage, which is not really of any nutritional value as such. It's just like an intestinal broom, so to speak, as they also nickname it. It's meant to cleanse our guts and make sure nothing gets stuck there. And in that process, by the way, it does eliminate quite a bit of cholesterol. But let's not get too deep into that. So these are the things that we have to keep in mind if we want to talk about food security. If people want to grow food to eat, they must keep in mind those figures. So if you're one person and you're growing for yourself, you need to be able to produce the equivalent of 120, 130 grams of carbohydrate, 60 grams of protein, 20, 30 grams of fat, and then the rest of it will fall into the picture. Let's not get too deeply into this. There's really no need. So What do we grow in order to be able to produce these foods? That's the question, and that's the thing that I don't see being answered in all of these gardening and nutrition courses and food growing courses and alleged food security courses. So you need to be able to say to yourself, okay, I'm in a household of 4 people. Okay? Between the 4 of us, we need 500 grams of carbohydrate, 240 grams of protein. That's on daily basis. You multiply that by 7 to see how much you need to produce weekly. You multiply that by 52, the weekly figure, to see how much you need to produce on a yearly basis. Okay? So I've worked out the calculations roughly. You will need about 20 kilograms of protein a year. Okay, 20. It's a rough figure, 20. And you need about 30 to 40 kilograms of carbohydrate for one person. If you're a family of 2, you multiply that by 2. Family by 3, multiply by 3. Clear. So if you want to talk about food security, you have to work things backward and say, this is my objective. This is my target. It's like you're planning, let's say, a holiday. I want to go to Paris and London. I want to spend 5 days in London and 6 days in Paris. In London, I need X amount of dollars a day. In Paris, I need that much. I need so much for the plane ticket. You add them all up and you say, oh, okay, so I need to raise $10,000 before I can think of going on that holiday. The same thing applies. It's exactly the same principle. You don't go, you have to plan it in advance. You have to play it forward. You have to say, this is my objective. This is how I need to do it. And unless you are producing all of these things, you cannot really talk about food security. Let's be honest about it. Because food security means, if you want to achieve it, and I'm not saying one has to, I'm just giving you guidelines if you want to do it. Because I often see people like taking photos of the produce they have been able to generate on their garden, and they, very rightfully, they have all the right to be proud of it. Hey, look, I grew a beautiful lettuce. That's a beautiful tomato. Great, fantastic. That's all fantastic. But you cannot live on tomato and lettuce. Even if you grow 1 million lettuces a day, you can't live on them. If you want to get yourself the proper nutrition, you have to be able to grow your own protein primarily. I emphasize the protein component. Why? Again, going back to hero nutrition, because you can be on a high protein diet and count on the fact that your body is actually able to transform protein to carbohydrate. And that's what a lot of those slimming diets are based on, and I'm not going to get into that. However, your body cannot convert carbohydrate to protein. It cannot convert fat to protein. It can convert protein to fat. So protein is the most essential thing, and it's the most expensive food, actually, because, when you go to the supermarket and you're paying X amount of dollars per kilo of meat, and then you go and buy potato, you pay much less. Why? Because meat is primarily protein, potato is primarily carbohydrate. So protein is the most important form of nutrition that we need. It's the most prized food that we can buy if we don't want to grow ourselves. And if we want to really remotely approach anything close to being called food security, we have to learn how to grow our own protein. And to do that, we have to know how do we grow plants that will produce this for us. Well, thank you for watching, and we'll be back to you soon.